That's where he spent 4 days with Eddie Jones inside the England rugby setup in November. Bellamy wasn't sure what to expect. Mastermind, Eddie Jones has steered England back to the top of world rugby. Credit. APHe had crossed paths with Jones in previously, though he can't recall exactly when, and was therefore expecting to meet the man painted by many in the media as a meticulous, intense individual. 4 days later, Bellamy left the inner sanctum with plenty of tips to take home to Melbourne and a perspective on Jones that will surprise. I know at times people can get a bad rap or a reputation through the media, things can get a bit warped, but one thing I've always said is I will take people as I find them, Bellamy told the Herald. Through the time we spent over there I found he was very measured, very well prepared and a really personable guy. He was all business and switched on when he needed to be, but then there were times where he would show his sense of humor as well, and you could tell the players liked that about him. He's actually very funny. He has a really good sense of humor and I found he always had time for a little bit of fun. On the hunt, Bellamy is always striving for more success. Credit. Mal Fairclough-John's humour aside, Bellamy couldn't have been more impressed with the way the former Wallabies coach conducted his review of the 1-point loss to New Zealand and set his side to face Japan 7 days later. He was very technical and clearly put a lot of time into the preparation. Bellamy said, "Sometimes we have been to places and got a whole heap out of it. Sometimes we don't get a lot from them, but there is always something that we've been able to take back to the club. This was one of the ones where we took plenty from it. We spent time with the All Blacks a couple of times. They were great learning experiences, and this was the same." Keen eye. Bellamy's search for coaching knowledge has taken him all over the world. Credit. APHe premise behind the fact-finding missions which Bellamy and Storm football director Frank Ponesi undertake is simple. They are always looking for the extra 1% which will keep Melbourne atop a competition designed to make that task particularly difficult. But dig a bit deeper beyond the basic premise and one can see why they remain on top with such remarkable regularity. It's now a rarity if an NRL club's CEO, coach or head of football doesn't spend a week or two in the United States on similar fact-finding missions. Heavyweight, Jones has turned England back into a powerhouse. Credit. But, in typical Bellamy-Ponesi style, as the rest of the competition zigged to the US, they zagged across the North Atlantic Ocean. Sometimes it reiterates what we are doing here. Sometimes it shows us that we really need to make some changes and sometimes we add something. Ponesi said, "We go in with a plan each time of making our program in Melbourne better and we are always learning. We always bring something back and that was no different after spending time with Eddie. He was very engaging to speak to but more importantly, very engaging with his players and his staff." Back to Jones. Having spent time inside both the New Zealand camp with Hansen and the England setup with Jones, who the Melbourne Brains trust tipping to be the last man standing after the World Cup final on November 2nd, no doubt the All Blacks are the benchmark in world rugby but they have a couple of very good teams chasing them. Ponesi said, "With Eddie, their England are definitely one of them."